Hey folks, I'm Troy and you're watching TroyTube. If you are struggling with lines in your prints and your print quality, this video is for you. We had a user post in the on our TroyTube.net site in the crafting group last night asking about getting rid of lines in their prints. And a lot of people are quick to say, you run a print head cleaning, a nozzle check, a power cleaning, different solutions that relate to cleaning, but that's not always the problem. In fact, the more common problem that I see is what's called banding. And we're going to go through a couple different scenarios here and talk about each of those and what you can do to resolve them. Now, there's also a post on our website at bulkvinyl.com in the blog that contains the information in this video. It might contain some more information than what's in the video, so you might want to read over that too, but it's just kind of a text version of what I'm going over here. So banding is not necessarily, it's almost always never a print clog or a head cleaning issue. Banding is when you normally don't have the correct paper type selected when you print. So when you print, you use your system dialog, the printer dialog, and you choose the type of paper you're printing on, whether it's plain paper, presentation paper, glossy photo paper, cardstock, whatever the case may be. And then the printer knows how to make adjustments for that type of print media. So that I don't know if it adjusts the distance of the heads or the speed or what it is. I'd say it's probably the speed and the amount of ink that's used. So I don't know the technical specifics behind it, but what causes that is usually paper type selection. Now, banding, the way it appears, will usually be either light or dark lines through the print with each print row. So if your print rows, they should butt right up against each other. Ideally, when a printer's working great, if you print a photograph, you can look at it with your naked eye. You can't tell that it's been printed one row at a time. And that's because those rows butt up against each other perfectly so that there's no gaps down the page as the printer prints. And so that it has to lay down the right amount of ink in the right position so that it just kind of barely bleeds together, doesn't leave any white space, but it doesn't also overbleed into the next row, which causes dark lines. So here on the screen, I'm going to show you some examples in Photoshop. As you see here, I have two squares, and what I've done is just kind of turn the opacity down a little bit so that when they overlap, you'll see a darker line. And you can see here, when I move the boxes over top of each other, you have a dark line that appears from the oversaturation of the color. And that's what happens when you are getting those dark lines. There's too much ink, or it's printing, maybe the speed is too slow or something for that media type, and the ink literally bleeds over into the other rows. If the paper type selection is in the opposite direction of whatever causes this problem, then you will typically see what I'm showing here as light lines between those rows where there's not enough ink bleeding into each other. And when the printer is set correctly and it knows what kind of media is there, it will butt the lines up against each other and be totally seamless. And like I said, you can't see it with your naked eye. Now, when you make this adjustment, basically when you at print time, you click on your printer properties and you should be able to change the paper type selection in there. Now, sometimes the options to make those changes are not available to you, or they don't look like what I'm showing you on the screen right here. And we'll talk about that here in a few minutes. So make sure when you're printing, you're using your printer dialog and choosing the correct paper type and making sure the paper size is set properly, your print quality is set properly and everything. It's just a good habit to get into to do it every single time, regardless of what you're printing, because a lot of times settings will stay from the last time you use them, depending on if you've rebooted your computer or not, or if you're in the same program or not. So, it's just a really good habit to get into. Years and years of teaching people to use computers and sitting at their desks, one of the worst things was, especially Microsoft Word and Excel used to have a little print button right there on the toolbar, and people would just hit that print button. And if we were in an office that had maybe 8 different printers or 20 different printers, who knows where it's going to come out. and so really hitting Control P or going to the file menu and print, or however the program is laid out, is one of the best habits to get into. That way you know what you're doing, you're seeing it every time. Now with paper type selections, plain paper is pretty obvious. Plain copy paper is the plain paper setting. And then when you get into other media, you're going to have to correlate different media types to what the presets that are available to you are. For example, matte printable vinyl like the Orcal 1917, sublimation paper, other things like that is a little bit heavier with a matte finish. You're going to want to use presentation paper matte. There is also a premium presentation paper matte that I use on some thicker items like the vinyl and so forth. You're going to want to probably play around with your media and choose different settings and do test prints, and waste a page or two of your media to figure out what works best for that particular item. So if you're using water slide or printable transparencies or whatever the case is, then you're going to want to know what those settings need to be for that particular media type. Okay, and so when you set that and you get it right, that should eliminate the banding problem for you. Now the next thing we're going to talk about are clogs. Right here on the screen I've given you an example of what a clog will look like when you print. This is just a test image, and it will show you that the print is poor quality. There may be lines missing, as in total white spaces. Sometimes you even see white lines that go all the way across the page in every row, that looks like there's just a little tiny line where there is no ink whatsoever. And so those are print clogs or dirty heads. Sometimes ink is dried on the heads, and it may not even be clogged, but the fact that there's a little bit of ink dried on there causes the ink not to spray out cleanly, and it might drip or smudge. Sometimes it actually does look like a smudge when there's ink missing. You may notice certain prints that may appear to be missing all the red or missing all the yellow or something like that, and those are signs that you have a print clog. Now I'm going to talk specifically about cleaning Epson printers, because these are the most common printers that I encounter out in the field as far as what customers are using, and that's what we have throughout our office and home. I have probably 6 or 7 different Epson printers, and they're all just a little bit different. They, things vary a little bit differently per model depending on features and setup and everything, but they all generally have the same capabilities as far as cleaning the heads. Now the first thing you want to do is on your Epson printer, go into the maintenance settings and go do a nozzle check, and this will print a little pattern for you on your page that will show you if there are any line segments missing. Each one of these little lines, if there's any missing, that means there is a clog or a problem somewhere that needs to be cleared up. Now typically if there's maybe 1 or 2 segments missing, print a photograph. If you can't tell that it's a problem, then I wouldn't worry too much about it. But then when you get a few more of those, or sometimes you might print it and the entire magenta section be missing or something because it's completely clogged, or the line has an air bubble in it or something. So print that nozzle check, see what it looks like. Like I said, if there's only 1 or 2 segments missing, print a small photograph or something and see what it looks like. If it's not a problem, I would probably move on and not worry about it, because it may even clear up on its own through normal use if you print a couple items. Now, if your printer does need cleaned, with Epson printers, there are 2 levels of cleanings. I don't know about other brands. They may have this feature as well, or the same features, or maybe call it something else. So you'll have to research that on your particular brand and model of printer. If you have an HP or Brother or whatever it is, then you may have to go look up those procedures. The same things generally apply as far as what I'm talking about, but how you do them will be different on different brands and models of printers. But the first level, if your nozzle check on an Epson printer does not come out clean, or if it's missing more than just 1 or 2 little segments, and it's actually causing printing quality problems, then you want to run a regular cleaning cycle. Now, there's no real, rule on how many cleaning cycles you should run. I would say that in most cases, if you ran 2, 3, maybe 4 cleanings in a row and it's not all cleared up, then there could be a deeper issue and it may require a power cleaning. You don't want to run, set and run 20 cleanings in a row. Those things that you're just wasting time and wearing on your printer heads, and there's an ink pad in there that's in like a well that catches all the excess ink from the printer. So the more cleanings you do and the more power cleanings you do, the faster that's going to fill up, and it's going to require replacement or maintenance to clean it out. But I haven't really run into that yet, but like I said, 2, 3, 4 cleanings maybe. If that doesn't clear up your line segments and it's still pretty bad, then you're probably going to go to the next step, which is a power cleaning. Now, I think on all the Epson printers, the way you get into power cleaning is you turn the printer off, you hold the question mark button and hold the power button until it comes on and shows you the power cleaning screen. This takes several minutes to run. It uses a good little bit of ink, and it also is kind of hard on the printer and printer heads. This is not something you want to set and run 3 or 4 times in a row or run once a week or anything like that. This is really should be used as kind of a last resort if you couldn't get it to clear up on its own with a regular nozzle check and print head cleaning, and through normal use. You can print a few pages, see if it clears up. I would even do that before I do a power cleaning. But especially if your printer's been sitting for a long time, it's probably going to require power cleaning to clear it up. But the power cleaning usually will clear up these kind of problems. Now, every once in a while, you'll have these cases where there's that, what I described earlier with those lines missing the ink in a little kind of like pinhead size lines all the way across your page. The power cleaning may not clear that up. And if you pay attention to what they tell you is that after you run the power cleaning, print quality it says something like print quality will improve in 12 to 24 hours or something like that. So if a power cleaning doesn't clear that up, let your printer set for at least probably 12 hours, check it again, run a print, see what happens. A lot of times, most of the time when you have that case, after you run a power cleaning, let it set for a half a day to a day and it will clear that up on its own. Now, how do you prevent those clogs from happening in the first place? So there's 2 issues really that cause clogs. First is poor quality ink. Whether it's sublimation ink or regular inkjet ink, people are buying generic ink and using it in the printers. A lot of this ink, most of it actually, comes from China. A lot of it probably even comes out of the same place, and they sell it as different brands. A lot of your Chinese sellers on Amazon will sell different things under different names, but it's the exact same product, and they flood the market with it. They don't have very good quality control over there. They don't do things in clean rooms, so there's dust floating around in the air, getting in the ink, and different chemicals and things when they use it. So really stress the importance of using a good quality ink that's designed for the specific printer. I always recommend using when it comes to regular ink, the inkjet ink that you print everyday stuff with, use the brand for your printer. If you're using an eco tank, it can't tell what kind of ink is in it, so you could really use any kind of generic ink in those. But I really stress the importance of using the good quality ink that's the original brand because of the viscosity, the frequency that heads run at, and everything. Everything's matched up to minimize any of those issues, and minimize the risk of having contaminants that get in your print heads and clog them and degrading your print quality. Color consistency issues is a big issue. A lot of times you'll have a company that sells ink under our brand name on Amazon, and they're getting it from one lab and maybe just paying them to bottle it and label it for them, or maybe they're bottling it themselves, and then they change brand or change sources for their ink. Maybe the lab down the road gets a better price, or maybe they're out of something they need and they need it from somewhere else, and they will switch and just change out the components in that ink or whatever that product is without telling anyone. They don't worry about it. So there can be a lot of color clarity issues and consistency issues with different brands of ink if you're not careful. Now, we also sell the regular Epson branded ink for a lot of the EcoTank printers on our site, and we have a really good price on those. So if you're buying regular Epson ink, check out our website at bulkvinyl.com for that. Our DPI Sub Premium Sublimation ink is designed for the Epson EcoTank printers. So you can rest assured it's going to minimize the risk of those clogs, dropouts, and color clarity and consistency issues by using our DPI Sub Premium Sublimation ink. Now, the other way that you prevent clogs, or you minimize the risk of it, is by setting up your scheduled test page on the TroyTube.net website under your account settings and your profile. Now, if you go to the TroyTube.net website, go to the Help menu and click on the Knowledge Base. There's a sublimation section, and I have a couple of articles in there. One is how to do all the things I just talked about with nozzle checks and cleanings and power cleanings and everything. And then there's another article about setting up that utility to send a weekly test page to your printer. Now, this works with any printer that can accept an email address to print a document. The Epson printers work with Epson Connect. I don't know about other brands. I know that a lot of them have that feature. I don't know what they call it, but look up your brand and model and look up the features on the manufacturer's website and find out if you can send an email to your printer to print something. A lot of people use it for, if you're on the go, someone sends you a PDF file, you forward it to this email address, and that PDF file will be printed and waiting on you when you get home. So if your printer can accept just a straight email, you can use this utility to set up a test page. You can set it up to 7 days a week. Most of the time, only once a week should be required. I have a printer here. It's an Epson 4800 EcoTank that has not been printed on in probably 3 months. And I've had this utility running on it, printing that weekly test page every single week. It prints perfectly and has proven out that this theory that I had works. And it really only costs you like $1 a year in supplies and paper and a little tiny bit of ink to run this test page every week to keep your printer running and keep it from clogging and avoiding those headaches from those clogs from non-use. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about is printer drivers and how important it is to have the correct printer drivers installed on your computer. And most of my content is Windows related, but I think the same thing is probably true for Mac. If we get our printers, we get a new printer, we take it out of the box, we're all excited, we plug it in, set it up, put the ink in it, run through its little setup utility, and you either plug in the USB cable or tell Windows to add a printer, and it finds it on the network already, and it just magically happens, and you can print a page. Your test page prints, and it looks great. Must be done, right? No, that's a bad thing. The problem is that magic that happens when Windows installs a printer is not so magical. It is setting up a basic printer driver from Microsoft. It says something like Microsoft IPP class driver or something like that. And that's basically a basic printer driver that can send a print job to any printer. And when you have that, you're going to miss out on things like being able to tweak your settings, set your print quality, all the save presets for your paper sizes and your different settings. And so always download the most recent drivers from the website. I don't think many printers come with a CD anymore, but if it does, just throw it in the trash. Go get the latest drivers from their website. Most of the time, if it does come with a CD, when you install it, the first thing it's going to say is it needs to download the updates from their website anyway. So set up you can literally Google and search for your brand and model printer and driver, and usually right at the top of the page or near the top of the results page, the link to get to the software you need for your printer, and install and set that up. And as you can see here on the screen, once you have the correct drivers installed, you have a lot more settings available in the printer properties. And then, of course, on the print dialog, when you're getting ready to print from a program and you click printer properties and go into your printer settings, you have more control there as well. So make sure you're using the original drivers for your printer. So I think that addresses just about everything I can think of. So we have banding, we have clogs, and we have printer driver issues. Printer drivers usually don't affect the print quality that much, but it gives you a lot more capability, and it's something just to do as a best practice, because you're with that generic driver also can't control the ink and how much ink it's laying down and things like that, as well as the original drivers too. So I guess it could do great quality a little bit, but it'll look fine for most basic things when you print them, until you run into something and all sure enough you find out that you have the wrong drivers installed. Sometimes when you install your driver, there will be you may install your printer and you go to your control panel and look, and you might have 2 or 3 different printers that are all the same model. So what I recommend, sometimes Windows will install those and throw them in there extra, It'll find one on the network by IP address. It'll find one by the WSD address. It's different things. So find the one that is the one that has the drivers on it that you need, and then just remove all the rest of them. That way you always have the right one in there. So hopefully that's been helpful to you. If you have any questions or comments, post them down below the video. Hey folks, I just wanted to take a minute to thank everyone for the love, kindness, and support that you've provided to Tammy and I over the past several years. It's been almost 10 years, believe it or not, been 8.5 years since we bought our first Cricut. So we're almost a decade into new careers for both of us. So when you buy great products like Orcal 651, Thermaflex, heat transfer vinyl, DPI sub, premium sublimation ink, blanks, any of those things that you buy from our site help support us and our employees and our employees' families. Don't forget about our subscription and membership, which gives you access to our e-learning courses and also significant discounts on product purchases as well. So if you like our videos and everything we do, click the subscribe button down below if you haven't already. And when you do, click the bell next to it so that you'll get notified when I publish new videos. And then in the video description, there's also links to all of our Facebook groups, our Facebook pages. So joining those groups, liking our pages, leaving us reviews helps us out immensely. And we thoroughly enjoy every minute of this journey along this path with you to bring love, kindness, and hope to the world using your crafting hobby or small business, whether it's been in person, on the phone, or through social media.